So here's the Middle Ages, a time where there was darkness, not much was known. Many people were only existing or learning from what the priests were telling them, right? But things started to change, and people started to observe their own selves and their environment, and now there is a big revolution. And that revolution was called the Scientific Revolution, and this is your new guided note 7.2. So what are we going to learn today? So you should be able to describe how scientific theories and the scientific revolution challenged the ideas of the classics, or the early classical period, and medieval period, meaning the Middle Ages. And also you should be able to identify major contributions of individuals or scientists associated with the scientific revolution. So what caused the scientific revolution? Well, during the Middle Ages, many Europeans, they started to take a great interest in the world around them. But these natural philosophers, as they were called during the Middle Ages, really did not make any observations of their natural world. They just relied on the classics and discovered works by Archimedes and Plato. So those are Greek philosophers and mathematicians, right? And that's what they relied on. However, other developments and other ways of thinking were starting to be encouraged. And invention of the telescope and the microscope during this time period helped to develop new scientific theories and make new inventions possible. But above all, and most importantly, the invention of the printing press, which is from whom? If you said Johannes Gutenberg, then you're absolutely correct. The printing press invented by Johannes Gutenberg helped to spread new ideas and new thoughts and new inventions quickly and easily. So during the Middle Ages, and even the Catholic Church believed in this type of system called the Ptolemaic system. So philosophers developed and constructed this idea of the universe known as the Ptolemaic system, named after this medieval astronomer Claudius Ptolemy. And he believed in a geocentric theory, and that's what the Ptolemaic system is, a geocentric theory or system of the universe. And according to Ptolemy, the Earth is considered the center of the universe, where the Earth is fixed and motionless. That means that he believed, as you see here, and this is the geocentric theory, that the Earth was at the center, and all of the planetary bodies, such as the Moon, Mercury, Venus, even the Sun, existed and rotated around the Earth. And he figured that everything outside of those planetary bodies was considered heaven. However, this is Nicholas Copernicus. Say hi to Nicholas Copernicus. So as he says here, he was a mathematician, but he believed that the sun was the center of the universe, or he believed in a heliocentric theory. And in his observations, he feels that his theory was way more accurate than the Ptolemaic system, and he also believed that the moon revolved around the earth instead of the opposite way that the Ptolemaic system believed in. All right? So now you have two different theories, the heliocentric theory and the geocentric theory. Today, of course, we have the heliocentric theory. Johannes Kepler was a German astronomer, mathematician, astrologer, a philosopher, and he used detailed astronomical dates to arrive at his law of planetary motion. And that helped him to describe that planets orbit around the sun. So Kepler has now validated through his detailed dates, being a mathematician, that yes, the planets orbit around the sun and not the earth. However, those two men were deemed heretics by the Catholic Church because it went against the geocentric theory. And this is Galileo Galilee. Galileo Galilee as you see here, had quite a bit of some problems. So let's read about it. He says, okay, so what had happened was I used a telescope to conduct investigative experiments to see mountains on the Earth's moon, 4 moons revolving around Jupiter, and sunspots. Cool, right? Wrong. Do you know the Catholic Church was spying on me and had the unmitigated gall to declare me a heretic and put me under house arrest for life, though? Get on my nerves. Yes, all of that was true. He did use his telescope to conduct experiments and observe Jupiter, the Earth's moon, and even the sun. But he was considered a heretic, put on the trial, and considered a heretic by the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church placed him under house arrest for life. Eventually, it wasn't until, I think, 2003, I believe, that the family of Galileo Galilee was given an apology by the Catholic Church, saying yes, he was correct after all. So apply it. This is a painting by a 19th century artist, Joseph Nicholas Robert Fleury, and it is Galileo before the Holy Office, as you see here, the Catholic Church. So what do you think Galileo is saying in his trial here? What do you think Galileo is talking about in this trial? Here's another scientist during the scientific revolution, well known, Sir Isaac Newton. So Newton defined the 3 laws of motion that govern planetary bodies in his major work called the Principia. He will conduct investigative experiments to produce those conclusions. The one law that is crucial to the whole argument was the universal law of gravitation. And that universal law of gravitation stated that there was one law to explain all motion in the universe. And as you see here, Sir Isaac Newton says, no, he never got hit in the head by an apple. That's just a conspiracy theory. He was actually observing the orchards and, saw apples falling, and that kind of led to his observations and conclusions, asking the question, well, why did the apple not float? Why did it just fall? So he did his experiments and so forth to find out about gravitation, right? This is Andreas Vasilius, and he was an anatomist and physician and the author of one of the most influential books on human anatomy. And he pioneered the study of anatomy. And the Fabrica is the most famous anatomy book ever written because it was the first book that was the most reasonably accurate book on human anatomy. Okay. Here's another scientist and physician. This is William Harvey, and he was influential in making contributions to anatomy and physiology as well. He made history when he discovered the circulation of the blood. He showed that the heart was the beginning point of the circulation of the blood, right, and not the liver. So the heart circulated all of the blood, and he figured that out through his observations. Now let's talk about a little bit of philosophy, and you'll find out that through the next unit that we talk about with the Enlightenment, philosophy is going to become huge and a big proponent. But we're going to talk about René Descartes first and deductive reasoning. René Descartes was a French philosopher, mathematician and scientist, and he emphasized the importance of our own mind and his own mind, accepting things that he reasoned that were true. So for example, he is known for saying, I think, therefore I am. So that is rooted in deductive reasoning or deduction. You're making an inference or conclusion based on widely accepted facts or premises. So what does I think, therefore I am mean? Awesome. So if you said that based on your thoughts, because your thoughts exist, therefore you exist, and it exists, then you're absolutely correct. And that is deductive reasoning. The whole point is that it's an accepted fact that your mind, you think. We know that. That's a fact. And therefore, because you have thoughts, you therefore exist, right? So that is the conclusion. So that is deductive reasoning. Here's Sir Francis Bacon and inductive reasoning. So Sir Francis Bacon was an English philosopher and statesman, and he developed the scientific method, which I'm sure you learned about in science class. Sir Francis Bacon believed that scientists should not rely on ideas of ancient authorities, meaning those of the Greeks and the Romans or the classics, but instead should learn about nature through direct observation and experimentation, or what is called inductive reasoning. So he believed that you should go out and observe life and experiment, and you should from that come to some form of a conclusion that will be factual, which is different than deductive reasoning. So you have inductive and deductive. So let's apply it. What's the difference between inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning? So if you said inductive reasoning observes the natural environment and conducts experiments to come to a conclusion, yes, that is correct. Deductive reasoning does the opposite. It gathers facts that's already out there and then comes to a conclusion based on those facts. So thank you so much for tuning in to these guided notes lessons. How has the scientific revolution changed modern life for you? Think about all of the things that we have today: internet, smartphones, right? LCD TVs and different various things. How has the scientific revolution changed that in our modern world? Think about it and write your thoughts in the comments or in Edpuzzle, and I will see you in the next episode. Peace.